this podcast especially is focused around the importance of being able to build networks at work. Women are known to be very good networkers when it comes to the social fabric of India, especially, right? Women are very well connected inside their homes. They're also very well connected when it comes to extended family circles, social circles, friend circles. They will also probably have certain smaller circles at work. But why and how what are some of the traits that you think women have that makes them great at networking? At the same time, what are some of the aspects that are holding them back from being good at networking, at work avenues, either inside the organization and for senior leaders, outside of the organization as well. So that's the topic that we want to talk about today. And, if we can get started with the lady first, Kiran, what have been your personal learnings through your journey in terms of what makes women great at networking, but what are some of the things that holds us back from being good at networking from a work point of view?
One thing that I find which works is in our own head first. The world comes later. In our own head first, we should believe that we want something and we should, go for it. There is nothing about, being a woman or not a woman. It's about being a person who has an ambition and who thinks he or she can do it. It's really the same rules which apply for everybody. So the first thing is we should not limit ourselves. It has worked for me. You spoke about asking for more. Yeah, why not? So you have to keep raising your hand. You have to be ready to take on more responsibilities, and it really happens for you. Honestly, in my career so far, neither have I experienced the glass ceiling, nor have I experienced honestly any kind of bias, or at least maybe I'm blind to any bias. I choose to not look for any bias. Sometimes you find things when you look for them. I didn't look for them, I didn't find them. I've had, I won't say it's a smooth journey, because life is not easy. People are not easy. So I won't say it's been easy, but I didn't find any challenges as a woman per se. Whatever challenges I had, anybody else would also face, because working with hundreds of people is not an easy thing. Working in leadership roles is not an easy thing. People are complex after all. So I think the first thing that I would say, what stops us is probably ourselves. If we remove shackles around us, I don't think life is too difficult. Some of us definitely have more challenges, some have less. But finally, first, it's about you yourself, of being able to do things. First, transparently. Second, we should never stop being who we are. A lot of times, stress comes because we try to fit in, and when you fit in, and because it's an unnecessary effort, what happens is that bogs you down. So we have to fight our way in being our authentic selves, because finally that's where your comfort zone is, that's where your strength is. So it's important to remain authentic. It's important to fight your way in. It's important to believe you can do it. So finally, like I said, the whole perspective I want to build in is that this is doable, and let's do it for ourselves.
Great. Thank you for, kickstarting this with, obviously, I think the personal mindsets that, blocks that women typically carry. And, of course, and in the chase of, probably trying to live up to some image that people have, or, they see other people doing. So being authentically you also helps. What are your, Veerendra, what have been your observations? What do you think makes women good at networking and yet limiting themselves from being able to create that network at workplaces?
Suruchi, I think, there's so many wonderful points that Kiran has already covered. From my observation of, a lot of, women at home and at work, what I see is, I think, they're naturally good at, connecting with people, networking with people. And, I would say, I think it's the innate strength that, most women have. And that surely helps. And but however, I think when it comes to career, as you there are so many conflicts with sometimes with working women, and like Kiran said, I think one has to really believe in oneself, and and then ensure that I think you are not limited by the obstacles that you have. However, I think women have to they really have to multitask, and they many times have to look for the family. Then I think they'll have to manage the work, they'll have to manage the family, and I think also I think there is a biological clock. I think then right when you are hitting the a mid-level and doing well at career, I think you'll have to take some of those decisions. I think some of these could really sometimes be overwhelming and might not give you the bandwidth or the energy to which is required to sometimes network at work and beyond.
We are all, I think women are known to be naturally adept to connect with people at different levels, more at a deeper level. But if I can flip this question and talk about, Kiran, what are some of the things that you have been able to do over your career span? And you could speak about, right, whichever career span that you would like to take in your entire journey so far. Some of those proactively things that you did, to make sure that you were building that network. How did you go about it? Was there a conscious effort to it, and what kind of steps did you take?
I'm not sure if I made a conscious effort, but I did make sure that I did what is right, for my role. Finally, being in human resources honestly is incidental, Suruchi. Everybody in every role should network and see what's required in the organization. A lot of things, the culture of an organization, DNA actually can be determined if people just talk enough and network enough, right? There is a merit to water filter conversations, smoking breaks, golfing teams. There honestly is a benefit to all of it. Sometimes women get left behind, honestly, because traditionally we are not part of these breaks, though of course that's also changing now because the taboos are reducing, and women are able to without any fear of being branded in any special way, are able to do all of this as well, thankfully without judgment today, at least in urban cities. So that's great. But other than that, in every role, people should network, talk more, and you'll realize that, organizational DNAs are built like that. Whatever can be solved through conversations will always have a better, result. Companies with conflict is okay, but how you deal with it is important, right? So if you do it through emails and fighting, vis-a-vis you do it with conversation and coffee, is so much more better and healthier. So if you talk about how I would have done some of these things, I think conversation has always helped. And conversation doesn't start when you need somebody. Conversation has to start when you're able to be a sounding board for somebody. You are able to be a support to somebody, a friend to somebody. And that is one thing I would say, again, not about men or women. It is something that we have to build in ourselves, which is sounding empathetic, being empathetic, able to listen and genuinely connect with people. If you're able to build that in you, and trust me, I was a lot more reserved person when I started my career, and I'm a completely different person today because over time I practiced and made sure that I am that person who is available with time. Honestly, Suruchi, a lot of my time goes today in listening to stories and listening to people, understanding how things are working, so that I've practiced and built over time to genuinely sound interested and available in people's stories. And that helps. And like I said, that you can't start when you selfishly need people. You have to start when you can give your time for their needs. And once you build that rapport, once you build that reputation of being somebody who's available, interested in you as a person, wanting to support you, then you build the network, because what you give is what you also get.
Yeah, I think I pick on you because we talk about this in our masterclass during the program as well, that a lot of times there is a misconception about networking, that networking is for your own benefit. Well, the larger goal could be that, but largely if you can't go out there and put your value proposition out there for somebody able to be able to tap on it,
Yes.
and
Yes.
you being able to add value to someone else, you will be exchanging
Absolutely.
cards in all kinds of conferences, events, and things like that, but you will not be able to create that network that you can eventually rely on. So I think being selfless is one of the biggest service that one could do, if I can
Yes.
paraphrase this to yourself.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Kiran. Veerendra, what are your some of the tips? What are some of the things that you have learned over time, to be able to create that network, which which acts like that support system at work, right? Which acts like that army that helps you deliver to what you want to do at large inside the organization.
A lot of points that Kiran said, in fact, I think, resonated very well with me as well. And, I used to be very reserved. I continue to be very reserved. In fact, I think, somebody who generally shies away, from a lot of networking. However, I think, I do agree that I think networking is extremely important. And maybe I could go back a few years to one of my earlier jobs. I think around 2008-9, I was working in a company called GMR Group, and I suddenly got the role of head of talent acquisition there, and where I was managing some 17, 18 locations, and managing the talent acquisition for all of those locations, including some of the locations being overseas in Indonesia and China and all of that. And that, that the pressure of the job really forced me to, first time in my career, actually realize the importance of networking. And over a period of time, I built rapport with a lot of function heads, a lot of external partners, who were helping us with the hiring, and a lot of industry folks, who specialized in the industry that I was associated with that point in time.
Yeah.
And it really helped me a lot and very quickly in terms of scaling up to the requirement of the job. And I think the lesson learned through that cycle continue to hold true. And networking is definitely very, very important. Even today, I think I'm part of a few networking sessions, I think, within the industry, outside the industry, and I think it really helps you a lot of time in terms of giving you outside in view, in terms of, I think, thinking about aspects that you probably wouldn't be able to think on your own. And like Kiran mentioned, I think, within the organization, definitely you'll have to be really very authentic. You'll have to really be genuinely interested in understanding, the concerns of people, or, the person with whom you are engaging. I think these definitely, I think being very authentic and being very genuine really helps in establishing the connects and networks, I would say.
Other things, that women typically, or women, typically who don't like to network. Let me put it that way. One of the other thought processes is, I'm going to go do my work, and as long as I'm doing my work, that's good enough. Most of them are not able to accept the fact that creating a good informal network, knowing people, having those connections, being able to add value to them, in return also getting value added to ourselves, is part of your work. This is not really something no organization is going to put out there as one of the strategy strands, go and network. But it's understood that as you grow in an organization from junior levels to mid levels to mid senior levels, you will be expanding that network, because a lot lies in the power of informal, we talk about the power of the informal network, the informal power centers that exist inside an organization. So Veerendra, if you can speak about, if you had to talk about giving couple of tips. Let's say we have 3 programs, and we'll be using some of this to showcase them as well. We have the junior program, which is 2 to 10 years of experience, right? Young women out there. Then we have the mid-career, 11 to 20 years, typically the ones who are going through this whole conflict of the career clock and the biological clock and all those kinds of things, and then the senior women as well. But for all 3 levels, do you think there are a couple of tips that you would like to give in terms of what at each level they could do to keep building this network, to keep expanding this network? How do they build that informal power?
Suruchi, I think when it comes to networking, I think while a lot of people do understand that networking is important, one thing that I'd like to believe is that I think maybe people find it difficult to have the bandwidth, I think have the time really many times, or the energy really, to invest in networking, because it takes a lot of time and effort for you to kind of reach out to people, be connected on WhatsApp groups, and meet people and all of that. But however, I think for anybody, I think a woman or a man, I think for you to really be impactful and effective in any organization, I think you'll have to really invest a lot of time in identifying the key people within the organization, and at all levels. Let's say even if you are at a junior level, your interactions need not be limited to just the junior folks. I think you'll have to really understand who are the key people within the organization, who are the people through whom I think you could get things done, and who are the people who could, especially in HR, I think you might need help from a lot of folks within the organization at different points. I think it's important for you to really identify the key connects within the organization, I would say, and then I think make an effort to build the rapport and establish a connect with these folks to both help them and help you in the process, and overall I think help the organization as well, of course. So I think it's more about identifying the right connects and making that effort in spite of the busy schedules and the bandwidth issues and all that.
True. No, thank you. Thank you. Your thoughts, Kiran, on this? Some tips that you would like to give at junior, mid, senior levels?
Sure, Suruchi, and I echo what Viren is saying over here. Also, in his last comment, it really touched a chord when he said that you get a role of talent acquisition, for example, and you have to redo who you are because that's what the role demands. Because the work the team will do, but as a leader, you have to demonstrate certain things which have to match the role. So, taking a cue from that, I want to say that at a junior level, when you're there, I guess that's the right time to decide who do you want to be and where do you want to go, right? Because a lot of times, for example, in HR, you start with talent acquisition as a role. Lot of roles, 70%, they start with that. Now, if you think, and that's the kind of role which honestly demands you to be a player. When I say a player, you have to be able to engage with all levels, all kinds of people. You may have a small team of temporary staff workers who do some work for you, even at a junior level. You will have some teams because they'll be doing your, basic MISs. You would have very senior people you coordinate with. You have vendors you work with. So, and you network with your, like-minded people in the company. So if this is not who you want to be, then you should quickly switch jobs and do something else.
Correct.
Because if you're going to be in a job which requires, a certain level of being assertive, being available, being networker, all of that. And if that's not what you want, I'm not saying you can't do it. Everybody can develop themselves. But if you don't see yourself developing, fail fast, do something else while you are, younger. Because one thing I realized, Suruchi, is that, when we work better and better, more and more on our strengths, we do better. When we kill ourselves to work on our weaknesses, it drains us. It may be a good thing to work on your weakness, but eventually, because there's so much stress in life otherwise also, so it could drain you. It could, further challenge. Better to work on your strengths and use, get into something which works for you even as a person. So initially in your career, first thing you need to do is see what would make you love your job. If talent acquisition is not that, HR operations is there. There is research, there is AI, there's just so much more happening in the HR space itself, or any other career. So choose something that resonates with who you are, right? Because finally being authentic is going to work for you. So that's the first tip I would want to give, that don't get stuck with what you got. Push yourself, find your spot, do things which use your personality as a strength, and it is not seen as a handicap. So first of all, find a job you love. It's initially, it may be difficult. There are lakhs of people qualifying from college every year, getting into jobs. Our first jobs may not be jobs we love, but use the opportunity to find what you want, and in your third, fourth year, you should honestly be in the spot that you need to be. That's the first tip. Don't struggle for 20 years. Struggle for 3, find your niche and get there, because then you're going to, thrive. You're going to be happy. And that's very important, to be, happy, feel happy at your workplace, right? So first is find your niche. At middle level, I would say the important thing would be understand that at a broader level, life is not fair, so if you think that, oh, I'm doing my best and somebody will come and watch me, honestly, who has the time? So you have to be seen, you have to be heard. And life is all said and done, there'll always be someone who's better, or at least demonstrating better, optically looking bright. So we have to fight those battles. Let's face it, that that's how the world is. And thrive in that. So I would say at mid-level, it's important to step back, take a moment, get a perspective, see what's working for others, see what's going to work for you, and invest in yourself. That's going to be my tip. If there is something lacking, invest in yourself through technical training, getting a coach, finding someone who can be that sounding board, give you objective advice, and reinvent yourself. Mid-level is when you have to reinvent yourself, because 3 years before you get into the big shoes, you have to start showing that you are getting ready for it. So I would say fake it till you make it. Absolutely. Which means start demonstrating to the world that you're ready for the next level 3 years before you are actually ready. Because one fine day, if you take on a role and you've not made yourself ready, you are going to fail, or you're going to really, really struggle. So it's best, how would you do that? By reading a lot, by networking, by talking to senior women who've been through that, pursuit, reading not just, I'm not talking about reading fiction, but reading, management books, seeing what's happening in the world. So really investing in yourself, challenging yourself to adapt to the newer ways of world. And, basically, like I said, networking more and making yourself ready before you're actually ready. So when you step in that, you already have a game plan. You have your 100-day plan on what I'm going to do to be successful. Because if you wake up on that day, it's going to be very tough. And, at senior levels, I guess we have nothing to lose. So we should just enjoy ourselves, not take too much burden, and just, be who we are, and make sure that, we are able to transfer not just our successes but our failures, and to people, so they know, what they shouldn't do. If, trust me, Suruchi, a lot of people talk about, oh, let me tell you my success story, and let me share how you can replicate this. No, I think what's more important is sharing failures, that don't do this, because I learned a very hard lesson from this. So I think, like I said, at our level, we have nothing to lose. So it's really important if we can be authentically, share our failures as well, so other people can learn and maybe do better for themselves.
Absolutely. No, thank you very much. I think some of the key things that are coming out is, knowing some of the key people, finding time out through whatever busy schedules that we have to be able to reach out to them, connect to them, by being yourself, because there's definitely value add that everyone is adding to some or the other person in the organization. I think also very critical for junior levels to identify something that they love to do, because in areas where you love to do, then you're able to
Yes.
kind of pull yourself on things like networking, because that's the space that you want to be in, and then you will go all out to do that.
Yeah.
Of course, I think at the mid level, completely agree. I think often, even when we are ready, we are not ready to say that we are ready. But to be able to say that we are ready, a couple of steps before we are going to get there is definitely important. But regardless, thank you very much, both of you, for spending time today on this podcast.